here is, I figured out how to solve that issue. What I did, I wrapped my code into try catch. I already did that, but I also logged that statement console.error while registering user. My program is running here, but it was broken down here on the Prisma because we did not have user collection in our database. Then I got that issue. Error while registering user. It was a Prisma client non request error. This .prisma.user creation invocation error because the public user does not exist in current database. What I found the key issue was in the Docker Compose, we did not define the volume for auth-db. We were using Postgres for authentication microservice. What we was doing, we had only single Postgres container, single Postgres DB container. It was running for the riders database, but we are not persisting any authentication related data. When you run the Docker Compose down, when you stop the Docker container, when you stop the Docker, and when you restart the application, your authentication data will be gone. Your auth DB will be gone. All the tables and columns will be gone in the auth DB. So that is why I broken down. I found that approach is good. Let's say my two microservices are using Postgres. We are running a separate instance of Postgres database for each service. How I solved that, I created a Postgres rider instance. This is for rider microservice. I use the Postgres rider data as a volume. Now when you stop the application by using Docker Compose, it will still work. We can prove that. I have also converted into Postgres auth. It's another like authentication microservice DB for authentication microservice auth DB. I replaced the name, which is auth DB, and I've set the volume for Postgres auth DB and Postgres rider data. And then to create the user table, I run this command npx prisma migrate f. This will sync the Prisma models to the database collection. Now you can see that you can copy that code from my project Docker Compose file and paste them here. Now I sent the login, actually this sign up request. I already created the user. Let's create a new user. Now a new user has created. You can double check that for the auth DB. Get rid of this connection. I can say that Uber services auth DB, let's say. Now you should see the user. We have two users. Now what I want to do, I want to stop the Docker container. Docker Compose down. So Docker Compose up. It will take some time to run all the services. Now I gotta restart my all services. Yeah, when you make more mistakes, then you will learn more. This is the habit as a developer. Now my Docker, I think all of the services are running. I'm not using here. I can delete that, or don't need to delete it right now. Let's test that. I'm gonna send this sign up request with different user. A user has created. Let's log in. I can log in, send the login request. Now I can access the token. So we fixed the issue. We got the token back. I'm gonna copy that token. So we were implementing the profile route. I can provide the header BEARER. This is the syntax to provide the authorization token. Let's open the API-gateway controller, and we have a profile route. We need to implement the guard here. This guard will be responsible for validating the token. I can implement the use guard. It should be auth-guard. Now it's gonna run this function, the auth-guard. But you will not have request.user ID, request.user.user ID, because we did not add the user ID to the request.user property in the auth guard. Let's open the auth guard. Here I can get the authorization header. Right now I'm returning the true. Let's first test that. Console.log auth header. Right now we are in the API gateway. It will broken down because we will not have user property. What is this? Meta type is not a constructor. Let's send the profile request. If we did not provide the auth guard, let's run that. Actually, I can copy that code, can activate completely. we need to construct auth service, import the auth service. I don't need observable. First of all, get the request from the context, get the header, authorization header. We are going to get this header, the authorization header, this one. If we did not provide the header, it's going to return the false and you will see the error. And then we need to split into two array auth header. This will be split as an array. This one, the first argument will be the barrier and the second argument will be the token. That's why we split with a space. And the second argument will be the actual token. Here I got the token. I called validate token from auth service. If token is valid, remember we saved user ID and email while we are creating JSON web token. I have provided this to the request.user and finally return true. If error comes, we're gonna return the false. Make sure we will have the validate token in the auth service. I believe we have. Yes, we're gonna send the validate token to the authentication microservice. Now we're gonna implement the validate token. We have already created the command for validate token inside the API gateway controller. We are calling the get rider. Inside the auth-guard, what we are doing, let me check that. Auth-guard, yeah, we are calling the validate token from the auth service. This token will be validated from the authentication microservice. What it is going to send, it's gonna send this command to validate token to the authentication microservice. Now we will receive this command in the controller, in the authentication controller. Make sure you enable that. Let's check that. In the authentication service, do we have validate token? I think we don't have. Let me create that. Open the authentication service. Authentication service. And I can copy my validate token. What it is going to do, it's gonna call the verify method from the JWT service. It will return a boolean. If token is validated successfully, it's gonna return the true. Otherwise, it's gonna return false. So I will receive here, it's gonna do that, and it's gonna return boolean value true or false. And this the result of this method will be received inside the auth service here. So from here you are calling the validate method, validate token here. If it is validated, we're gonna return, actually it's gonna return the user back. Validate token, this jwt.verify will decrypt the token. Remember I told you into the jwt.io, you have learned about that. jwt.io. Let me show you. jwt service dot verify this type of token, our token we provide, and it's gonna return this data, whatever you save while creating a JSON web token. So we have the validate token, and here I will get the user. This user will have ID, user ID, and email. Let me check the authentication service. Here in the login, we created a token by adding user ID and email. So I will have the user ID and email. We have added the user ID user object to the request, so other route handlers can access this request property. Just like that, request.user.user_id can access that. I have ran all of my projects: API gateway, logging service, auth service, and writer service. But I got this issue, type error, meta type is not a constructor. Because I found the issue, there is a problem here in the API gateway controller. I imported auth-guard from Nestjs passport. Make sure you import it from your local auth-guard. Now everything will be fine. It's time to test our application. So first of all, what we gotta do, we gotta log in. It's gonna give me the token back. I'm gonna use that token to access my protected route. Let's copy that and paste it here. Cannot find a route auth profile. What is that? Let's double check the route. Auth/profile. We have declared that route. Oh, I think I'm sending the get request. I'm sending the post request. I think it's a get request route. Let's do a couple of logging inside the auth guard first. You should see the token. Let's log the token. Token value. We also going to log the user, which we decrypted from the token, validate token, and we have set the request.user, and I can copy that, and inside the API gateway, what I want to do, I want to log the request.user. Here I can say request.user. Let's send the request again. Request.user is an observable. We got the token. This is good. We got the token. Request.user. Yeah, we need to use the first value from syntax. I can first. It's returning the observable. We need to get the value. What was that? first value from, let's copy and paste here. Because it is sending the RabbitMQ based request to authentication microservice. Let's check that. Now you can see we have the user ID is 3, email is this one, and we got the request.user, and it is called the rider microservice. But I think we don't have rider on this email. Actually, we don't have that rider with this ID. Yes. We did not add a relationship between user and the rider. Let me show you what I'm gonna do right now. Let's open my project. User and rider relation. We're gonna make a relationship. This is how you will learn how to make relationship between two microservices. We will have authentication microservice. Authentication microservice has a DB which is auth DB. Inside the auth DB we have a users table. Users table we have a user ID. We have a user ID which is unique ID. It's a primary key, let's say ID, which is a primary key. Inside the rider service, I can say rider microservice. Rider microservice is using the riders DB. Whenever we create a new rider, we will send this sign up request. Let's say a rider wants to sign up. Rider wants to sign up. Application will send request to the API gateway. API gateway. We will have a user ID here. User ID and our rider email and password. Actually, not password, not email. This rider DB have rider details like rider address, first name, last name, age, CNIC, stuff like that. But we will map user ID here to make a relationship, to make a relation. User rider wants to sign up. API gateway sends request to the API gateway, and API gateway will send the user sign up request to auth service, authentication microservice. Authentication microservice, a user created successfully, it will give the user ID back. It's a primary key, and we will use that ID and we will provide to create rider. We will provide that ID, unique ID, I can call it user ID, to create a new rider. So we need to create a relation between user and the rider. How can you do that? In the next video, we're gonna solve that issue.